All right, so we're going to call the Monday, December 20th, 2021 meeting of the St. Albans Town Selectboard to order, and we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Can everyone hear us all right? Are these microphones working pretty well?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So we need to amend the agenda to add a new agenda item 7 and bump everything else down the list to a new number for the town hall bank note, the financing, the $2.5 million.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, so we got that on the agenda. And now we're on to warrants. Jonathan has the general fund. Thanks, Aaron.
I have the general fund dated 12/17/2021 and the amount of $70,600.62. Make a motion we approve this warrant.
Second it.
No notables, Jonathan?
Not really. It's pretty much basic stuff.
No, you try to check them most Fridays?
Yeah, I came in on last Friday and looked at everything. Nah, it's great.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
All right, for payroll, we have 2 warrants before us for December 10th, 2021. We have a warrant in the amount of $63,511.76, and that one's a bit higher. Like, so is this the one with volunteers in it? And
No, that's because we paid the cash in lieu of health insurance stipend
Oh, okay.
to 7 employees at
Okay.
$5,000 each.
that would do it. Thanks. And then the other warrant is stated December 17th, 2021 in the amount of $27,701.06. So I'll make a motion to approve these 2 payroll warrants.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, I have 3 miscellaneous fund warrants. The first one is a stormwater utility dated December 20th, 2021 in the amount of $9,102.50. The largest of the 2 invoices on this warrant are to Aldrich and Elliott for design engineering.
One
Yeah.
moment. I didn't want her to interrupt you.
Recording in progress.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
So that Aldrich and Elliott invoice is like 95% of this warrant. So it's a stormwater utility warrant dated December 20th, 2021, and the amount of $9,102.50.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Now we have a infrastructure development fund, their local option tax reserve fund, dated December 20th, 2021, in the amount of $15,151.56. 2 invoices from French Freeman make up a little over $11,500, and then there's a Peterson Consulting invoice for a hair under $3,500. So infrastructure development warrant dated December 20th, 2021, in the amount of $15,151.56.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. And then we have a normal industrial park warrant. It's just the 3 GMP Green Mountain Power account invoices for the sign lights, the road lights, and the sewage pump. So industrial park warrant dated December 20th, 2021 in the amount of $599.32.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those are the warrants for this evening. Now we are on to minutes. We have the meeting of Monday, December 6th in front of us. Did anybody have any questions or corrections?
Nope.
Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes of Monday, December 6th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're on to agenda item 4, public comment. Is anyone in the audience looking to make a public comment about something not on the agenda? Okay, we're gonna move on to agenda
Wait,
item.
Can I make a public comment on something that is on the agenda, Vern?
Yeah, when we get to that. If-
Okay.
I mean, you could make it now if you'd like to. But
I just noticed that someone was in the waiting room, so I might wanna ask that question again after Brian asks his question.
okay, I'll let these two people connect. I'll give it a minute for those. Okay. One more. Give it 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Seems like a very long time.
It's a long connect,
when you're
yeah.
waiting.
Yeah.
If
All
we
right.
can move on, you can ask again.
Okay, so Brian, did you want to make that comment now or wait till that agenda item?
We can, that's fine, whatever. I just wanted to be clear, that's all.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. And you can make a comment anytime about anything. You're
Oh, sure.
full
Just-
vested board member.
I just, so public comment, to be clear, if there's something on the agenda down, they have to wait until we get to it before they can make a comment?
That's a preferred practice. That way we don't have fragmented discussions.
Okay.
But if
someone-
if anyone wants to make a public comment
Right.
about something on the agenda now, to not
Mhm.
have to wait
They-
for the actual discussion,
Yeah.
as a means of being able to leave the meeting early, that's fine.
Okay.
But seeing no one raise their hands, we'll move on to agenda item 5, which I think Al Vogel may want to make a brief comment about. It's the Northwest Regional Planning Commission appointment. Al has been on his own representing the town for, 2-3 months since Sarah took the position as town manager of Fairfax.
We've not been representing the town, but I've been looking for representatives for the town to appoint to the Regional Planning Commission.
Right.
So I want to make clear, I'm not representing the town itself, but I had an opportunity to meet with Marietta Schulten, who lives just beyond me on Fred Lake Road, and her expressed interest to consider joining the Regional Planning Commission. And so I did provide her with a copy of the Regional Planning Commission letter they sent to you, Brandon, and also the letter that they sent to the Select Board regarding all the things that they did for the town of St. Albans the past year as part of their application for money for 2022 budget, 23 budget. And we had a long, good discussion. For those people who don't know, Marietta is a physician who is now, I think, in the process of slowing down her relative practices. But she's got, first of all, she's a critical thinker. She's got a great deal of experience working with human beings, and she knows the healthcare industry back and forth. One of my perspectives is that we are in a crisis, both regionally and town-wise, with not only COVID, but with healthcare in general. And for people who may not know, but the hospital needs the support of the Regional Planning Commission. And so I think that Marietta can help us understand, the members of the Regional Planning Commission and then the towns from that, understand why the hospital is so critical and business to keep in place in St. Albans to serve the Franklin County. So I would be happy to answer any questions people may have about Marietta. I think she'd be a wonderful candidate for us.
Okay. And to make clear, so Al, you recruited Dr. Schulten as a private citizen, but you are one of our 2 representatives to NRPC representing the town in that capacity.
That's correct.
Okay, so she would be joining you as a partner, and that was a pretty strong endorsement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So does anybody have any questions for Al, or any questions from reading what was in our packets, the brief letter, the brief email that was written?
I was thrilled to see your name. I think she'll be a great fit.
Awesome. So that term would expire when?
Well, technically it would expire this April because we usually just do 1-year terms. My guess is it'll give both parties an opportunity, hopefully, that she'll continue, but to reappoint her in April when we reappoint everyone else.
Okay. For the sake of the motion, we're going to appoint Marietta Schulten to represent the town as one of our 2 delegates to the NRPC for a term ending in April 2022.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you,
Yep,
Al.
that's wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful to see you at a select board meeting. You should come to more of them. Okay. Okay, so agenda item 6 is the St. Albans Museum. They made a presentation to the city council last Monday, and they're here tonight to speak to us. So Janet Bailey is the president of the board of trustees, and I think she's here to make the presentation.
Here. Thank you, Brendan, and thank you, all of you, for allowing us to present. Lisa Evans, our executive director, unfortunately could not be here due to a recent surgery, so I'm the person. I'm not the best public speaker, so bear with me. Anyway, and Al is also a trustee, as is Brendan, so we have, and Marilyn Grunwald is also on, representing the museum as well as we are all town residents. There was a presentation that I believe Jan sent to everyone. Did everyone get that board? I don't know if anyone has reviewed it. I will go through it now. So by the numbers, the museum was closed to the public starting when our season ended in 2019, and we weren't able to open again until July 2nd, 2021, when all our the COVID restrictions were relaxed. During that time, we were not able to have any fundraisers. In person, we did have some fundraisers that were either online or a raffle type. We also lost a lot of income due to the Bliss Room not being able to be rented out. In July 2020, the American Alliance of Museums reported that 1 out of every 3 museums in the U.S. would likely close for good as a result of the negative economic impact, and SAM does not want to be part of that statistic. Our annual operational budget should be around $175,000 a year. That's the amount necessary to keep the museum operating. And the cost of utilities, as everyone knows, are rising: heat, electricity, phone, etc. The current makeup of our board of trustees for 2022, there are 10 trustees. 6 of them are from the town, residents of the town. Only 2 city residents, 1 from Swanton and also 1 from Fairfax. So the town is very well represented on the museum board. In our effort to reduce costs, we shifted from a full-time executive director, Alex Lenning. When he left, he was a full-time ED. We replaced him with Lisa, who is part-time. She works 24 hours a week, and this was a cost savings of about $20,000. Unfortunately, with the part-time ED, there's a downside, which means they are not able to do as much work, so the volunteers end up picking up the slack on that. During the last couple of years, we've applied for many grants, a lot of them from ARPA funds. The federal PPP loans, the first year we got $11,000. That was based on Alex's income. Last year we got $7,000 based on Lisa's income. Both of those were forgiven. We received a Vermont Cultural Recovery Grant for $5,000 in November. And unfortunately, we weren't able to qualify for some of the larger grants, which would have really helped us out, such as the shuttered venue grant, because apparently you need to have fixed seating, and our seating is not fixed. Our chairs move. So that was pretty disappointing. We're trying to save money in any way we can. We've conducted in-house assessments, and we also had Efficiency Vermont come to help us save money. Through those assessments, we believe we can save almost $10,000 over the next several years. We did apply for and receive 2 grants to conduct building assessments, mostly for upgrades to our historical building, which was built in 1861, so it was a witness building to the raid during the Civil War, which happened in 1864, so it does need a lot of work. The most important things are the slate roof, the cupola, the brickwork, the front steps, windows, and our HVAC system. And all those together will cost about $200,000. We've applied for and continue to apply for grants from places like Preservation Trust of Vermont. We just applied for one for $53,000. There's another one coming up in January, and we just found out today we actually got a grant for $20,000 from the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation, and that money will go towards fixing the slate roof. So we're very happy about that. We're also considering a capital campaign in 2022 to raise money to pay for all these building repairs. We're also looking into historical tax credits. We did have an issue with the north chimney that was an emergency in nature where it was leaking water onto the blitzroom stage, and we had to pay for that one out of our operational funds, and it cost $20,000, although the original estimate was $35,000, so $20,000 looked pretty good at that point. So when we reopened in July, we welcomed visitors from the St. Albans area, as well as 22 other states. We have a log book, so people sign in so we know where they're from. And we did stay open by appointment only until, actually this week we have a couple of tours going on, and then we're closing because there is no heat in the exhibit rooms, and it's pretty uncomfortable for people when they're freezing looking at things. So, but that was very welcome. We've never done that before, but we try to get as many people in as possible. We're very thankful to the town and John Montaigne for letting us have a booth at the Bay Farmers Market this summer. It really was great. We connected with a lot of people that hadn't been in the museum in years, and people from all over the country that visited. And then when we had our open house in August, we had over 150 people there, and many of them were people that had talked to us at the booth at the Bay. So that was wonderful. We appreciate that. We have about 25 active volunteers, and 13 of them are town residents, including the 6 trustees. The volunteers include the trustees, docents. We have a building maintenance crew, collections research, and accessions volunteers, and they worked over 3,450 hours in 2021, and that was not even for the whole year because we were closed to volunteers for some of that time. They're incredibly dedicated people, and a lot of museum work goes on all year round. It's not just when we're open this summer. We have research requests. We have one from the town. Actually, Jen sent one in for information about steamships. So we're working on that, and we do try to accommodate as much of that as possible. And we also work on exhibit creation, and a lot of our educational programming goes on during the time of year when we're closed. So even before the pandemic, the SAM funding was not really where it needed to be. I don't think that's a secret. We rely mostly on small donations from people in our community, our fundraising events, grants, and the town city contribution. And that's not enough to be sustainable. We know that, and we are working to fix it. We're working on getting more large donors, both private and corporate. And one of the things we're doing in 2022 is we're proposing a no admission to the museum, which we really don't make a ton of money on admission, but we are going to have a local business sponsor us for a lot more money than we would have made. So then admission would be free, which I think would be helpful. We have people that come in and see they have to pay and they turn around. So our plan is to be as inclusive and welcoming as possible. So our ongoing challenges with our mostly volunteer staff, it's a lot of work to carry out all of the community programs, events, and the day-to-day activities. These same volunteers are also tasked with fundraising for the museum, and they often pay for office supplies, the artifact database software, and other museum items out of pocket. And a few years ago, for example, some volunteers, realizing that our old security system was sorely lacking after a security breach, paid for a new security system to be installed at a cost of $5,000 out of their own pocket. Museums play a vital role in the local tourism industry. We can't, unfortunately, participate all year round because we have no heat, and or cooling in the summer. The heat's the problem during the 9 months of the year when we're not open. We would like to be a year-round facility so we can be more accessible to people in the community and for tourists. We're currently researching the cost of installing an energy-efficient electric heat pump system, and we're going to apply for grants to fund it, and we're thinking of putting Albans on this one. He doesn't know yet. But we have a lot of the trustees are actually writing grants because Lisa cannot do it at 24 hours a week. The thousands of artifacts we have in the museum collection are in areas where there's no humidity control or temperature control, and the excessive heat and cold are potentially causing serious damage to the museum artifacts, including paintings, photographs, textiles, and documents. And lastly, the grants are very competitive. We apply for everything we can possibly do. And a lot of them are match grants, so we have to have the money to match or we don't qualify for those grants. So what we're asking is for the town, both the town and the city, to increase their annual contribution to $25,000 per year. We're extremely grateful for the $15,000 you've been giving us for the last few years. It's made a huge difference. It allowed us really to survive. But we're asking for a little bit more help. With additional support, we can survive, and we're willing to do as much as we can on our part to make that happen. We just need a little help from you. As the only dedicated cultural organization in St. Albans with a physical building, we are the center of historical education in our community. We have school groups constantly in the building, and they can't get that anywhere else. And we do have a very unique and fascinating history, from the St. Albans raid to what went on in St. Albans Bay. A lot of people don't understand what went on in the Bay. There was a thriving port. It was called Port Washington. Lawrence Brainerd built steamships that brought people, the escaped slaves, on their final leg to freedom in Canada from the Bay. I think that's something that we need to continue and educate our kids and adults about the history of this community. So in previous years, you contributed the $15,000. We appreciate that. If the annual amount was increased to $25,000, we'd be better positioned to meet our goals. And there's a list in the handout of the things that it would be spent on, which includes routine operation, educational programming, which includes lake lessons, which I'm not sure if everyone is aware of lake lessons, but we take fourth graders from several schools in the area, including the town school, and we partner with other groups, the Department of Agriculture and Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, and a few others, and we teach kids about the cultural history and the environmental and ecological history of the lake. We bring them to the Bay Park, and it's free to the schools. We provide the funding. Also, the Bliss Room, we're trying to open up to more community utilization, more use by nonprofits. We're actually lowering the prices because we realized we were higher than City Hall, and so our prices are going to be the same or lower, so we can compete better with them. And then we also are working on our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. We did some panels for the city with a grant from them, and on untold stories, heard voices about the abolitionists and Black history in our area, which included Lawrence Brainerd and his work with escaped slaves, bringing them into Canada. Also collections management, exhibition staff expansion, and the building repairs that are so sorely needed, mostly the grant match funds. So on a final note, I just want to say that if anyone read the Vermont Digger article that came out, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, but the response from the community has been they do not want to lose our museum. I mean, it is a beloved part of this community. And we're just asking you to help us keep it going. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll ask a question. This is Brian over here. Have you guys asked Maple Run at all for any support as well? It sounds like you've been doing a lot more with the schools. I love hearing that. I'm just curious if there is anything they're able to help with as well.
I believe, yes, we have approached the school and also with the library. I don't know all the details, but we were not successful in either case.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anyone else is. I think it was Joe Luno that did the reaching out, so I don't know all the details, but I know we were not successful.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions for Janet? Al Vogel. Okay,
Oh,
Al.
you
go
just have
ahead.
to unmute yourself, Al.
Yep.
I don't have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We sure can.
Yep.
I don't have a question. I just want to follow up to what Janet has talked about. If that's okay with you all, I'll move forward.
Go ahead.
I think from my point of view, the most important thing now is saving the building. It is really in bad shape. It hasn't been kept up in many ways. And so the $25,000 we're asking of the town and the other 25 from the city, that will help us take the pressure off our operating expenses so that when we do get grant money, when we have matches, Janet noted, and then the second thing, that we can use some of that money for the smaller items that we need. I wish at some point all of you would take a walk through the museum with me, because when I first joined the board, my task was to get the fire system inspected and make sure that the electronic warnings and the water sprinkler system was working. So that took me through the entire building, from the ceiling, from the attic down to the basement. And what you will see if you walked with me is starting at the basement, there's tremendous amount of donations that we have that have just been stacked away, and that's fine, we're going through them now, but the issue is the temperature down there varies a great deal, and to preserve documents and to preserve clothing, we have some ancient dresses and uniforms, you need to control the heat and the humidity. We have a system of small home dehumidifiers working 24 hours a day, trying to keep the humidity at a reasonable level. The heat varies. So when you walk upstairs, and as Janet well noted, the rooms are not heated, so it's either very cold or extremely hot and humid. Again, for those artifacts that are in those on exhibit, they're subject to decay because we're not preserving them. All the way up to the bliss room, which does have some little form of air conditioning, not great, but it's there. So to the stuff that we have accumulated in the museum is extremely important for not only us, but more important for youth, to understand where we came from, and as we move forward and upgrade exhibits to where we're going, or at least to open the question to students, where do you want to go with this community? And the museum is the perfect place to ask that. Many of you have traveled to other museums, either in Washington, D.C. or New York City. You see that their exhibitions, they create an multiple imaginative questions. Where we came from, but where are we going? And so I think we need to do that as we face the future with the climate changes and with our new sensitivity to finding people to work the jobs that we have now vacant in St. Albans. So the last thing I want to note, the museum today exists because of a very modest person who just spoke to you, Janet Bailey. If it wasn't for her efforts, we would not survive. She's a retired air traffic controller, and sometimes I tease her about what runway to land on. But she has been the glue and the coordinator to pull us together and to assign us to different tasks. And without her perseverance, the museum would be in serious trouble. Yes, we have some great volunteers, but she is the queen pin to keep us together and to working. So I really hope that in listening to her, and others, that you will put on the not either in the ballot or on the budget itself, preferably the budget, this $25,000 we're asking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al.
Did Al's statement develop any questions from anybody that they'd like to either ask Al or Janet? Okay. So we've had the presentation. I can talk about the museum all night. We all know that. So I've been trying to keep a lid on myself. But I will say that I had an opportunity to speak with the city manager, who had a few ideas, such as turning the Bliss Room into market rate apartments, which was an idea that our trustees soundly shot down. Thank you for the imagination, though, Dominic. And he also had the idea of adding a fixed, half penny to the tax rate to go to the museum, but I don't know that we're there yet. And as far as the $25,000 funding contribution, I went back and tried to watch the clip from the city council meeting, and it seemed largely as if their answer hinged on ours. And the city manager had told me directly when I reached out to ask that the museum be put on their December agenda that they would only seriously consider doing something if the town matched it dollar for dollar. So we all know how I feel about it. I'm going to leave it at that. If anyone would like to add to the discussion or raise a question.
That's another question that I kind of wrote down before. So the town's been doing 15,000. We're looking to go up to 25, and I'm just trying to get a little more context. Is that increase talking? It's just inflation over years, or is it because COVID hit so hard, or is it because the building, which is a beautiful historic building, is in rough shape, and if this funding can come through and help, then there's light at the end of the tunnel, or is this things are bad and we're just trying to hold on until something big happens? I'm just trying to get some context with it.
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, Al.
Go ahead, Al.
We've been running at a deficit over the years. We've been draining our capital funds to keep the museum going. Our income has not been sufficient to make the museum, if you will, annually or operational independent. So over the last couple of years, we've drawn down a lot of those capital funds to keep the museum open. So to answer your question, that answer doesn't get directly to your point. Inflation is part of the problem, but really it's not. It's the fact that we are not able to attract enough income to support the museum. And to that level, the museum, in my opinion, is a public service. And to that degree, it really should default to the municipalities that benefit from it to help keep the museum operational and going. We did that with the public library, and for whatever reason, people weren't forward thinking many, many years ago when they approved the library system of funding. But be that as it may, I see the museum as being equal to the library, and we have a responsibility to ensure that it survives and prospers. And to prosper, we need to be able to hire the staff, be able to fix up the museum, the building, and protect all its artifacts.
Okay. To follow up to that, as a trustee, this extra $20,000 from the municipalities is not going to solve our problems overnight. We'll have to continue to be extremely aggressive with grant opportunities, and right now we have an operating budget of about $125,000 a year. To be successful, we need about $175,000. We're still going to struggle even with $50,000 from the municipalities to get over that $120,000, $130,000 mark. The balance will have to be made up with grants. So you very well could see some fresh faces from the museum back here in 5 years saying, hey, $25,000, we're going to close, we need $35,000. to put that as a direct answer to that question. And that's directly related to, you know, just operational needs from operating out of a building from 1861 that hasn't been properly maintained since the museum, you know, came into possession of it. And that's always been due to a lack of funding.
How do other small towns keep their museums going? Are they municipally supported generally, or do they get their funds elsewhere?
I guess I
Most
default.
small towns do, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Janet. Sorry.
Yeah, most small towns don't have a museum of the caliber that we have. Most have just a small historical society. When people come into our museum, they're shocked at how big it is and how much is in there. I mean, Al, didn't you meet some guy at the open house that said it was one of the best small museums he's ever been to across the country?
Yes, and he was from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I keep hopping in and out of this. I couldn't get it on my computer, so I'm on my phone. I just want to say that, back a number of years ago, I was writing grants for the museum. And while doing that, I went and visited museums all over the state of Vermont, particularly to find out how they were funded, you know, what was happening in their towns, how it was supported, et cetera. And I have to ditto what Janet said. Most of them are very small, other than the Bennington Museum, which I did also go and visit, and basically found out the Bennington Museum is they write grants. They also have a lot of large donors because of who they are and what they are. But I have to tell you that they do not have artifacts like we have in our museum. And I have to say that it's, I would say it's probably one of the nicest museums in the state of Vermont, if not the nicest. And then I also wanted to speak to another point of view through an educator's eyes. I've been on the museum board for a long time, maybe too long. I moved to St. Albans 21 years ago and served as the superintendent of schools here for 8 years. And during that time, I realized in working with teachers and working with the schools and the museum that the museum not only plays an important role in our, you know, our community, but for our kids. It really creates for them what I would call a sense of place, which I think is really important because they need to know where they came from. They need to know the history of St. Albans and what's the future of our state and our community. And the museum really exemplifies all of that. And I know year after year we have struggled to stay alive and been flying by the string of our teeth, and we've got to figure this out because I cannot believe our community wants to lose this museum. And in terms of the schools have participated. I believe the schools participated in helping us develop the curriculum for lake lessons. They also, the high school students, a number of years ago, participating in putting some videos together about the city of St. Albans, and also I think they did something on a house term. So they maybe haven't given us money, but they certainly have been participating in part of our museum, and I think they would like to continue to, and we need to get them more involved, and maybe down the road they will be able to put money in their budget to support us. But I don't know if anybody has any questions of me.
Marilyn, for the record, I need your last name, please.
Oh, it's Grunwald, Grunewald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll recognize Al for probably the last comment of this discussion before we move on.
Thank you. I can speak to the museum question. Colchester owns 2 buildings. One is the Colchester Historical Society headquarters, and it owns that building, pays for all the expenses of the building. It also built and owns the schoolhouse on Airport Park, and it also owns and pays all the expenses on that building. The services are provided by the volunteers of the Colchester Society.
I think it's similar in Georgia as well,
Got it.
but it's a small a house size type
Mhm.
museum. It's
Yep.
not a
I didn't
3-story.
realize Colchester had such a big, I never did visit them, and they were so close to home.
Mhm.
Brendan, I was wondering, I know you think about the museum and our town budget.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've given thought or have any suggestions for us to think about as far as, for this extra $10,000, were we to entertain it, would it be in addition to what we've already got in our budget, or would it be looking at, fine tuning parts of the budget to find the $10,000?
I would leave that up as a group discussion. I know we wanted to leave our nonprofit allocations largely alone this year as we developed a more standardized policy for how we accept and give out nonprofit allocations. I think there could be savings that come from the implementation of that policy in the future budget year, but I just don't see where in that sector of the budget we have any revenue to find to reallocate to the museum. I think if we went through our $5.6 million budget proposal for FY23, if we wanted to go after $10,000 by looking at different expense lines, if we nickel and dime certain departments like Public Works, which is the largest cost center in our budget, we could probably make that happen. But that's a board discussion and decision, I would say.
Mhm.
A previous select board, the last time the museum came for a funding increase, and that brought us from 5,000 to 15,000. I think that was in the early winter of maybe January 2018. I think Bill Nyan was still chair, so it would have been 2018. That board at the time elected to put it on the ballot and then left it up to the museum to garner community support, which it did pretty successfully. So that's an option at our disposal too. Leave it directly up to the voters. I think it's been a good discussion. I'd also like to see us in the next month or two try to have a similar discussion with the library to see what they're up to and what programming might be available. I'm about probably 2 or 3 years away from being a frequent flyer to the library with my son, but I admittedly haven't been in probably a decade. It'd be nice. We allocate, I think, around $150,000 a year to the library, and I think the city is beyond that by maybe 25,000, 175 roughly. So 100% of the library's budget, as far as I know, is municipally supported, but that's a different basket. So, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
So we can add this to the budget meeting discussion that we're gonna have
Yeah.
on January 10th.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
We will do that. If we have any questions, we can follow up with Al or Janet.
Yeah.
Or Lisa.
Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa would be here. She literally had an operation.
She is on.
She joined.
So
she'd be
just for the
speaking, but
record-
she had
Yeah.
she had an
Gotcha.
operation on her tongue and literally can't
Gotcha.
speak for
Get
a
it.
couple weeks.
So that we have the chat box, Lisa, on so that everyone can read it. I didn't read it out loud, but do you want me to read it?
I
Okay,
think it's
they can all see it.
I think it's
So
okay,
we did
yeah.
acknowledge that, sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
So, Janet, Al, Marilyn,
you.
Lisa, thank you very
Janet.
much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank
for,
you.
Listening.
thank you for all the work you guys are doing for that.
Mhm.
Good night.
Janet
Right.
literally does 40 to 50 hours a week. It's insane. She's very committed, and Al was not wrong when he said that we'd be in very rough shape without her. So thank you, Janet.
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah, absolutely.
I cannot get on my email for some reason, and I don't know, do I have to be on the staff Wi-Fi network?
You don't have to be, but that's the preferred one.
Okay, because the public one's not working. Could you give me the password for it?
I
maybe-
could not, but maybe Jen could.
Oh, wait, maybe. Wait, I might have done it. Hold
We can share my packet if you'd like.
on. All right, if this
Did it work?
last try doesn't work, I'll
Yeah.
share with you.
I should be fully charged now, so I can just move it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Just a minute, so Jen, do you know the password for the staff Wi-Fi? Could you text it to me?
I'll get on.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
No, it keeps saying
For
there's an
staff,
error.
there isn't a password for
Right.
the staff.
Oh, okay.
Shouldn't be.
Okay. It must, I don't know, it must be something else. It's just not,
Not accepting it.
I log in and it says there's a problem. refresh, and then I
Hmm.
refresh and it kicks me out.
I'll have to work on that because the staff ones should be more secure than the public ones, so, I'm not sure about that.
While we work on that, we'll
Move
we'll
forward.
move on to the new agenda item 7, which is the note presented. It's a note and a business mortgage, and we would need to sign a resolution authorizing it. So we need a motion to authorize it, and then we need to sign the banking resolution for People's Trust.
Right, there's probably, I think there's at least 3 different spaces on that note.
Right,
For
and Anna's got it
signature.
all laid out with
Do
sticky
you have
notes.
any questions before you?
I guess I had one question that came from a community member over the weekend when we were talking about it, because somebody asked, that you have that note in hand with how low interest rates are. I picked a good time to build a building.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, we're working with People's Trust, local bank, 2.85. We elected to go 10 years instead of 15. Saved $150,000 of interest in the process. And the question was, has this opportunity for a bank been allowed to be bidded on? I don't know if that's or put out to bid, I think was the terminology of the question. So I guess I'd direct that to Anna.
If you want to defer that to me, that's fine. I've checked with many banks as far as municipal loans, and they're all offering pretty much the same interest rate. We've had a long history with People's Trust, and they've treated us right, and it's the same interest rate as we would get.
Okay, so that's a good answer to that question, and then we have it on the record if anybody ever reads our minutes and wonders. So
That's fine.
thank you, Anna, for shopping that rate around and doing that work.
Does the purchasing policy say anything about like loans directly? Or is
It doesn't,
It doesn't fall under that.
we don't do it that often. I mean, it could be something we add in a future policy revision, but it's not.
I think this is the first note that we'll have taken on since the pump station upgrades at the industrial park, but that's
That's
billed
true.
back.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
billed back to the
That's
park tenants
true.
when we make the annual payments, so this is the first note that I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Not, I have never seen one on a truck or a piece of fire apparatus. I mean, this is kind of monumental to have a voter-approved loan in front of us for signature.
That we intend to pay off in 10 years, or
With-
sooner.
With revenues
Or
not
sooner.
from,
Yeah.
with revenues not from the property tax.
That's
We
correct.
did not raise property taxes to fund this note.
And there's no prepayment penalty, so this is just fine.
Perfect.
Jessica, the Wi-Fi is Town of St. Albans, no password.
Okay, that must not be the problem.
So we have a recommendation
you.
from our clerk treasurer to approve this, it's a promissory note, a disbursement request and authorization, a business loan agreement, and a municipal corporate banking resolution. And then we have individual information we have to supply as officers of the corporation in this case. Personal information, such as our SSNs, our dates of birth, citizenship status, employment. I mean, it's almost like we co-owned an LLC together and are taking on a mortgage, not that we're personally responsible for it if the town were to default. If the town defaults on this note, we're gonna have a lot more trouble, I think, personally. That would be a pretty dire scenario.
So this will change, obviously, in 2022.
Right.
So this will be, and Brian, I have your paper coming and I will email it to you.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the promissory note with loan number 74534. The disbursement request and authorization with loan number 74534, and the principal amount of $2.5 million with a loan date of 12/20/21. And we need to approve the business loan agreement with loan number 74534, and separately a municipal corporate banking resolution to authorize the clerk treasurer and assistant clerk to do the banking related to this loan. And then we'll need to individually fill out our personal information forms for the bank's records.
So moved.
Perfect.
One thing I think it's important to know is the 2.5 million that the voters voted on, that is coming out of the LOT fund.
Absolutely.
And not the tax rate.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments?
I just wanted to point out, I mean, it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Anna, but just for the record here, it's $2.5 million, it's a 10-year loan. We make annual payments. The rate is fixed. It doesn't move unless we don't make a payment on time. And there's no prepayment penalty. So I think, I mean, if it's as I look through, all those things are correct, right?
Are correct.
Okay.
And it's at a rate of 2.85.
2.85.
That's correct.
Which inflation will beat that.
Mhm.
We're locked in, so.
Yep. Yep, I'm ready. I just wanted to make sure that comment was out there.
Perfect, coming from the financial advisor. So, thank you for advising.
I didn't advise.
No, you didn't.
To be clear.
You didn't give advice. Yeah, that's good.
Perfect.
Okay, so motion second. Any discussion? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's be diligent about making sure we hit all of the signatures before we leave. That way we don't have to come back tomorrow. Okay. So now we're on to the town manager's report.
Perfect, thank you so much. So the first item here is a proposed Mill River Bay hockey tournament. It's exciting, but it was our first project that we had to go through the paces of our project review forms. I thought it was kind of important for a couple of reasons for you guys to noodle it, go through it. John and Alan are here to answer questions. I know this community embraces hockey in a lot of different forms, and we don't have anything else going on that I know of right now. Just want some feedback and of course questions for anybody here. We are welcome at this point. For the public, if anyone's watching, I can't remember the date. You guys know?
It's like February 11th or 13th, is that right?
Yep. And it is what it sounds like. I mean, there's proposed to do a hockey tournament in the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
The shallow end, of course.
Yeah, it looks. I was going to say, reading through it, looks awesome. If this works, and this could be real exciting. Looks like there's some partnership, so to speak, too, with Mill River and also with St. Albans Skating Association. It looks like, in Ben and Jerry's, awesome. Let's see here. Yeah, one question. It looks like you're expecting or hoping about 12 teams. What would happen if you only got 6? Would it still be good? And what happens if you've got 25? Can we do that, or is it 12 is it?
12 is the minimum to actually break even and make a little bit off of it. So, but I've been told by SASA that they can open up the floodgates if needed.
Yeah, that's
At $300
awesome.
per team.
Yep.
The mayor of the city up on the hill said that this is Hockey Town USA. So.
It is. Yep, that would work. That's great. That's awesome.
Mill River's definitely excited about it. So.
Yeah, and you've done a really nice job, John, of using these new forms. It helps inform us as the intent, the partnerships, and the budget side of it. So well done, everybody, in using the forms and developing them. I think it was an effort among the staff to get that done.
Yeah, one more question. I'm just looking at the date. If it was getting closer and you didn't have the teams, would it be possible to move it back a week? And the only reason I'm bringing it up is that weekend they just released, that's the first round of the state tournament for hockey. So every team is busy somewhere. And so SASA might not be able to open floodgates. Just curious, if it got where you had 6 teams and you needed more, could you move it back 1 week?
And the 13th is a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Maybe we should explore the date a little bit if
I
we
know.
can.
It's late.
We'll talk about that, yeah.
It is late for the Super Bowl, isn't it? Yeah.
We haven't marketed it yet.
No.
Yeah,
The
so,
reason-
I'm
there's
sorry?
Another hockey tournament.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, John, could you just sit
Yeah,
up here
come on
for a
up.
second?
Sorry.
And Alan too, if you would like.
Is it the,
but-
sorry, John, is it the Mallett's Bay one that's the next weekend?
Thank you.
Yeah, the
Oh,
weekend,
gotcha.
the weekend before is the Mallett's Bay one, and from my understanding, the first 15 minutes that it goes online, they're sold out, so.
Gotcha, okay.
maybe we should do the weekend after the one we had planned.
Yeah, I'm just asking. I mean, if that weekend works and we can get to 12 or so, that's perfect.
Yeah, if you're saying there's gonna be a
Oh,
lot
Super Bowl
of,
too, yeah.
you got the Super Bowl and then the state tournament, I would think would be a big,
Yeah.
big competitor.
We meet every Wednesday, so we'll discuss it then,
Okay. So you're just looking,
see what we can come up with.
okay.
We're good to go if you're in full support and don't have any critical questions, I can sign it.
I got a couple questions.
Yeah, me
Okay.
too.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead, Aaron. You go first.
So I've got just a few here. For the Zamboni, where is it gonna be stored?
So, right now, it's at the town garage, but, I don't know, it's probably more you.
We looked at a couple different options. Obviously, you gotta have water in it, and we don't keep the stone house heated. So the possibility is we have portable tanks we can take water down and put in and keep it inside the stone house during the winter. Or the other option is during maintenance, we just put the machine on a trailer, run it down, do the maintenance, and then take it back to the garage, so it stays heated.
So if they're doing a couple practices a week, would we need to bring or get the Zamboni out multiple times during the week for them during that, or?
So, because I believe is only looking at it for a couple nights a week, and then the rest of the time it would be for public skating. So John would probably do a maintenance a couple times a week.
I mean, really the real important one is the actual competition, the actual, not competition, but the actual event, so that's when it'll be used the most.
And the idea is to keep the Zamboni for as long as it can run.
Yep.
Because there's no replacement for it.
It actually,
Yeah.
I swapped the battery and it started right up and everything works on it.
Okay.
So, it runs off propane.
Gotcha. So for the risks, like no ice, of course, is a risk. You know, we talked about the risk of potentially not having enough teams. Other risks I could see being, you know, if there's teams that can't participate because of, you know, COVID positivity in the community. Any thoughts around contingency planning for the pandemic we're still in?
We'll have everybody's names. We'll definitely be doing contact tracing, and it's outside.
That's helpful.
So,
yep.
I mean, as far as an event, you know, the safest possible event right now is outside.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's really, we'll probably do something with masks and kind of follow the way that the schools are doing it and the other hockey leagues are doing it as well.
Now, I'm not familiar with outdoor hockey leagues and this kind of like multiple practices as much. Do we need to think about, or is SASA thinking about like warming huts or anything like that, temporary places for teams to warm up, especially if it's really cold, or is there a minimum temperature threshold that we wouldn't be able to have a practice or an event in if it's too cold?
These are all things that we probably should discuss.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure with SASA. I know they wanted ice time is really hard to find, so, and that was kind of the deal with SASA, is they'll get two days of practice for the kids, and then the hockey tournament's more based around like adults. You know, the adults can't ever skate anywhere and do any tournaments or do any skating because there's just no time. So.
Aaron, up until a couple years ago, Stowe had an effectively outdoor rink that kids played on. There was no walls; it just had a roof. When I was a kid, we'd have early morning games in Stowe and middle of winter with the breeze coming in. So
It was monthly hot.
so hockey,
It was.
hockey kids and parents are
Okay.
cold.
Yeah, I was going to say, Corey, I played a game there, it was -15. They dropped the puck. I'm not kidding. They dropped the puck. One of the face-offs. The puck hit the ice, and the puck broke in half.
Wow.
Shane Lemus picked it up. I think he's still got it. Maybe you can donate that to the museum. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think for most of the stuff with SASA, it's an hour or less. So, but if it's negative 15, obviously
We could definitely do something pretty easy that wouldn't be very, not expensive at all. I mean, we have a shed right down there too that you could always do something in.
Well, the original
And I think that's what they have at Stowe too. They have like a warming hut outside.
If you're gonna talk, Alan, you need to come up with John, please. You can.
That's all right.
Because the
Got
cameras.
So, yeah, and I mean, Mill River is, I don't think I've ever seen a local business so excited to do something, so they really do. I know, like, all their kids played, and so, I mean, it's just cool to see, you have Sticks and Stuff who's helping out with the cost of fixing boards, because there's gonna be one rink, it's kind of like a championship rink, and so I mean, I think it'll be a good thing to see, everybody coming together. It's kind of neat.
Well, there was such a positive reaction when we had the makeshift rink on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Everyone's
that
got
was,
questions about that. When's it coming back? So,
yeah,
yep.
so this would be, I mean, you're gonna have it open to the public more than any other organization or tournament, I would say. And then if we do some nice, outdoor lighting and so people can use it after work with their kids, I think it has the potential to be one of the most positive things we've done in the park.
Definitely.
I think Corey and I got a comment or a question from former state senator Dustin Degree about this several months ago, and it's really nice to see, John working with Mill River to make it happen, and SASA. So Shane Lamos and everybody else at SASA, we want to thank them for what they've done to make this happen.
Jonathan had some questions.
Yeah, and I don't know if Aaron was done.
No, those are my questions, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
When is the rink going in?
When is it?
Yeah, like
As soon as
potentially.
possible.
As soon as you're ready to go.
Yep.
As soon as there's
Okay.
ice.
And then, put it in now. So and then obviously when it melts, probably mid-March or early March, something, take it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be taking it down as soon as we can, yeah.
And then are we having lighting down there also? Okay. That sums it up.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're good. Sounds like the town manager's gonna sign off on that.
And when it is on, we'll share it on Facebook and all of
It'll
our
be
social
Mill River
media
will
and
look
website
definitely.
pages, of course, because that's the next question that'll come.
It'll be pretty phenomenal, I think, once we get it started. We have a very
Yeah.
good feeling about it.
It's great. Maybe we can make it year-round.
Don't give Alan any ideas, okay? We'll have artificial ice on order in 2
Hey,
months.
There were days where the kids, Eric DeLaurier and Dustin Degree, used to skate on Larry Bruce's pond.
Absolutely. Yep.
Orange Chevalier.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
7B, equity and inclusion. Discussion continued, as I put in the notes from the last select board meeting. You guys asked that it be put on here one more time, or at least for this meeting, I should say. I would just like to preface this with, I was trying to think of how we get to the next step without actually spending 30 to 40 minutes at each meeting doing it. And I feel like we're all trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. We need a more productive or creative atmosphere to actually have this discussion. And select board meetings are intended to have a 10 to 15 minute, very brief executive summary discussion. I think among many things you're gonna talk about tonight, if you really wanna dive into this, it's gonna have to be with a subcommittee with alternate meetings. We can't keep trying to do it at a select board meeting where we're throwing, a couple hours worth of stuff at you, and this is one of them. Just my recommendation that you probably wanna, if you're gonna move forward with it, figure out how to have this discussion or not, but I feel like we're all, I personally just get a little frustrated. I don't feel like we're going forward. We're just talking about it a lot. Not that it's not important, don't mean that at all. I just mean normally when you talk about something, you decide whether you're going to embrace it, not embrace it, talk about it some more offline a little bit. I don't know. Just want to try something different.
So you would think like an internal subcommittee with maybe some staff members and.
No,
select
I'm
board
thinking
members?
like the select board should probably, 1 or 2 members should start a subcommittee and start taking and meeting separately and pushing this forward. I mean, that handout that I read a couple times kind of indicated that that might be a good way to go. I also still, like you asked about it, Corey and I, not that long ago, it's very busy right now still with town hall and budget, so I would like to give this, I don't want to add a bunch of meetings right now, myself, but maybe in a little bit, if that's what you guys decide you want to do. But those committees that move forward either did it by hiring a consultant or having some volunteers spearhead it. It doesn't have to be a select board member, but someone does have to staff it, so.
So it could be a subcommittee with other community people, not just select board members.
Not necessarily, no, because I mean,
recommending.
when we were talking to that consultant, he said it worked pretty well when he met with a small number of select board members, worked through the analysis, the looking under the hood thing, or we try this other, try the other things mentioned in that folder. I mean, there's 12 of them in that flyer. I mean, maybe we can decide, look, we've done a lot of them already this year, and next year we're gonna do another 5 throughout making up a number, but.
Make an ongoing plan. with
Yeah,
goals.
like every
Yeah.
year we want to see progress on this, what's your long-term plan, kind of thing.
Yeah, develop.
I wonder too, if we did a subcommittee, so we had members of the select board, I mean, if there's enough of us, which I think it would be good if it was a warned meeting, because I think another limiting factor is there might be other members of the community, and we know we've had folks from across the community sharing feedback on a BEI committee. So I think having it a specifically warned meeting, I think folks will know, okay, this is the meeting I can commit my time to if I want to voice an opinion or give some thoughts about where the direction goes. And I think, having a subcommittee with the goal of reviewing the local solutions and community action document that was shared, or the municipal engagement for diversity, equity, inclusion, see where we've been, and it might be helpful to have a member of staff there for that conversation, just to help us have some insight into things that maybe have happened without us being necessarily aware of, and then making recommendations for the next year of like, here's a timeline, here's some things we could work on. I know I've got January right now, knock on wood, is looking, maybe, I don't want to curse it, like I might have a little bit more time in January, so I think I could, commit to a meeting or 2 between January and February if there was others that were interested in doing a subcommittee for this conversation.
I mean, before you start committing your time, we have at least 3 meetings in January and could have a 4th. We
Yeah.
have to get the budget put to bed by law. So that's
Other
a
ballot
hard,
articles or.
it's a hard, firm deadline. So that's what I mean when, like, the next month,
Well,
I
the-
would adamantly oppose that, but after that, cool. You can start talking about
February.
something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I could be on the subcommittee. I mean, especially if it was on Zoom, that would be really convenient.
And if we were gonna focus, like, develop a subcommittee specifically tasked with reviewing, like, these 12 steps from VLCT, I have a problem with that. I think a lot of it we're already doing. Some of it is, like, number 4 was ensure your municipality has an ADA designee for accommodation inquiries and complaints.
We do.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Like, just making that public, maybe having like a contact form on the website that says this is specifically who you contact, even through this form for ADA complaints.
I think that's number 3, Brendan, just in case someone's looking at
I'm
it.
looking at
Yeah,
number.
I'm seeing 4.
I'm looking 4, Brian.
4?
Yep.
4?
Might be looking
You have
at.
your readers on?
I do not.
Wow, you should watch
My-
where you go with that.
My floor says people, is
I
it,
didn't realize this is a roast.
I have
Yes.
a different one or
Weird.
something?
It's not very
Different
inclusive.
drafts.
I have special eyes.
We've got different drafts here,
Number
yeah.
5 on ours is invite new people.
Number 3 on this one that was sent is additional to the 11 that I had, because I was gonna correct you too, Carrie.
Oh,
I only
thank
have
you.
11, but you're right, there's 12 on this one. Weird.
That was 8th grade math
It's
student
interesting,
talking
because
to
I
8th grade math.
printed
Somebody's
it off the website when you showed it to me
feeling
last
I
time.
wonder if it's
Jess.
been updated. I
Yeah.
just Googled it to pull it up.
Interesting.
Okay.
This one says updated.
The document is called
4/16/21.
Municipal Engagement for Diversity, Equity, and
Okay.
Inclusion.
Yep.
Now,
Oh, the one I
Al's
printed was
probably wondering what we're
2020.
talking
Weird.
about.
Like,
Oh,
It's
all
one
right.
right off their website.
in no particular number, to not draw ire,
4 on the new one, yeah, okay.
evaluate
You're right.
opportunity for small-scale housing and business and local zoning. I mean, we're actively going through our bylaws,
We
so
sure are.
we have a grant out for bylaw modernization. Engage your community in the fair and impartial policing discussions. We've got a
Committee for that.
police advisory committee that's reviewing, they'll be reviewing all sorts of data.
Yep, and there's plenty of bullet points under each one too, like we may have these things, but are there additional steps that we could take?
Enhancing,
Right,
yeah.
and maybe, for the ones that talk about zoning or, bylaws, like getting the feedback of the planning commission, which I think goes to Brian's comment around how do we engage other members or other groups that we have as well. So I think, that could be part of the plan for 2022 as well, as saying, okay, in short order, connect with your planning commission, because I know they've got a lot of work on their plate now too, and so working that in into, a calendar, as it were, with some milestones that we can let the public know, here's how we're having this conversation.
And planning commission, just, is having that conversation, the bylaws, we actually, I looked at a report and shared with the planning commission some of the biggest things that impact, racial inequities within zoning, and they're usually, not allowing enough homes per area, especially where there's public water and sewer, so, density, usually, an absurd amount of parking requirements. For example, we only require 1 parking unit per apartment unit, but like say the city of St. Albans does 2.5, like that might be considered excessive. Not enough multifamily housing zoning around schools, which we don't really have zoning around schools that isn't already pretty dense. And there was one other, but we've reviewed those with our zoning department, and our recommendations aren't too restrictive there for the state standards. But that tends to be around multifamily and low income housing is where that's addressed.
Well, it sounds like it'd be a good idea to just meet, do an overall run through the list, see what we're doing, what we're
Right.
not doing,
At a
what we
dedicated
can
meeting.
do,
Then
and
come
then just
back
start
and-
working on it.
So I think 3 of us at least would want to attend that and be part of that discussion. And I'm looking at Jonathan and Brian to see if you would also like to be part of that, and if
I
so.
would volunteer for that, yep.
So why don't we have a special select board meeting in February dedicated to this, and maybe invite planning commission members and members of the
Police
community.
advisory.
Yeah,
Yep.
anybody we could send a bulletin to the whole organization. Staff also, we could create an open, welcoming environment. If a staff member had a recommendation, they'd obviously run it through Carrie before coming to the board, but, try to solicit any feedback that we can get from anyone that experiences things. But I think this makes sense. And, I'm glad to see a lot of people, top to bottom are thinking about this when they do their normal business. Does that sound like a good plan? Special meeting in February, maybe what are we, the 1st and 3rd?
Well, we meet
so-
the 7th and maybe the 21st. That looks like a holiday, but do you really want to meet on the 14th?
We do. And the planning commission probably
sure.
has the 5th.
Sure.
Every day is Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be the 28th, of course, as well. So that's the last one, though.
And then we have,
Then
so that town meeting day would be the next day,
town meeting day would be.
the 1st.
Yeah, we have to have a meeting that night anyway for the
So we have to have
budget.
a public hearing for the budget, right?
We do.
On the 28th. So why don't we segue into, that's usually a pretty short, it's usually combined with our first meeting in March.
It is.
Mhm.
So we could just have,
But we're not, right.
I mean, that would be 3 meetings in February. I mean, we'd have to create a 4th, and we're already looking at 3 to 4 in January. But yeah, if town meeting is on the 1st, we'll have to be here on the 28th to open and close a public hearing. So we might
Has
as
to
well.
be within 10 days, but still, we're gonna have to have an extra meeting either one way or the other, or another there.
So we'll meet
That's a
the
weird
7th,
calendar.
and then the 20.
Okay.
Probably the 22nd. We'll have to.
What, is that President's Day? What is that?
I can't.
21st, so we probably would.
President's Day.
So we would have been meeting probably on the 7th and the 23rd. The 23rd,
Might be close enough for that budget hearing.
yeah, I think, has to be within 10 days of the town meeting day, so it could be that day.
We could do the 28th. I mean,
It's true.
we target that. It gives us enough time to keep it open in our schedules. And then, we can make sure that we have a well-represented group
Mm-hmm.
when we have the meeting. Give us plenty of time to get the information out and save the dates on.
And maybe if we aim for like an earlier, like a 5:30 meeting,
Mhm.
that might be more helpful if staff wanted to join, they wouldn't have to come back. But I guess if we're doing it via Zoom, it might be hard to do though, if we have that many people.
I think we'd almost want to be here. And maybe have like a public participation method for Zoom, but maybe allow any town volunteers or staff members to be in this room masked. What's that?
Well, as we get closer, we can make that determination.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if,
Is it, just want to ask here, is it possible to have an agenda for that out earlier? I'm trying to picture in my head what we're gonna, exactly what we'll do, how it will work. Because if we have 20 people and we open it up, it could be,
Yeah,
I
it'll
don't
have
want
to
to
be
say
a set
unruly,
agenda.
but disorganized. So I'm just curious if we have an agenda.
well, I think the
Yeah.
More than
VLCT
ahead of
document
time.
will be a guiding document.
Yep.
And we'll go through that almost line by line
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
group.
Doing
and
an
advocate it.
assessment of where we've been, and then, as we're having the conversation, I think, someone could help facilitate in keeping track of like, oh, here's the bucket list item that we want to take on, or
Right.
the thing for 2022, excuse me, you're not going back in time. And, at the end of all the review, we could do an assessment of like, what can we tackle? So we're not getting into the weeds during the conversation, just noting, okay, here's where we need some work. And then at the end, doing that assessment of like, okay, what's the top priority? And then, being able to do a prioritization list.
Which
I almost see like a spreadsheet with all of those in a line in red, yellow, green.
Spreadsheets?
I love spreadsheets.
Oh, yeah.
Color coded.
Yep.
which document are we referring to? The municipal engagement one or
Yes,
the?
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
municipal engagement one.
All right, not
Yep.
the second one that's in here. Okay.
Yes, that seemed to be more just a reflection of what the LCT is
Yeah.
doing for themselves. I didn't see too much like a path forward for.
So
Yes.
essentially go through these 12 items
Right.
at once. That's why,
Yeah.
because that's a lot for one meeting. If
Oh,
we,
it'd be a
if we have
couple
20
hours.
people,
It'll be a couple hours.
it's going to be more than that.
We can,
is my guess, but-
I almost think we should
Could
have
be.
like a time limit. Like maybe we just get through the first
Well, maybe
6
just
or
pick a few,
something, I
yeah,
don't know.
first, yeah.
Well, there
pick
might be
3 or
some in
4
there that
items
we'd
and
be
then
able to
if
say
have
we
time,
already
go
do
to
that.
the-
Yeah.
Like, we get to
Right.
number 4, not number 3. We might say, okay, Carrie's already the point person. We're going to enhance how we advertise that.
Yep.
Moving on. I think some of them
And-
will be very quick. Some of them may,
Some won't. Yeah,
And some of them
won't
have
be.
like yes, no questions, or we could have, like some of the, we can just say, yes, that's happened, no, that hasn't. And part of the next steps might be like, okay, if it happened, rather than discussing it in detail here, okay, Planning Commission, you mentioned this, could you please just write up in detail or give us a memo of what this meant so that we can have it for the future?
Right.
So we're not getting into the weeds for some of the stuff that's already happened.
Right.
And we're just saying, okay, we're gonna document this, so we
Right.
know we've done it.
That makes a lot of sense. Keep it as brief as possible, but also
Mhm.
go through as much as we can.
Yeah.
And if 10 o'clock strikes and we've been here for 4.5 hours and we're on number 6, then we'll cut it.
No, I think, to that point, I was hoping, I already talked to Corey about, Corey and I talked about this, putting time limits, budget time limits on each aspect of the agenda, not just for this committee, but for the select board. So,
Definitely.
it's clear when somebody arrives, and we try to do that with that select board presentation guidance, that, you know, if you're giving a presentation, it's expected to be 5 to 10 minutes, not 45 minutes. I think we should do that for this as well. Just to, you know, if you know you're gonna commit to 2 hours, great, come in, pay attention, but maybe people aren't ready for 4.
Oh, well, you know, it was
Yeah,
a little hyperbolic.
I don't think we're aiming for 4.
A little hyperbolic.
I
in
know,
that,
I know.
but, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think it's a decent idea. Weightier ones, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if it's something, if we've got the agenda, we've got kind of an outline of what we wanna do, sharing this out with the folks that are invited and just asking them to read through it and come prepared with, you know, having thought about it, so they're not like, well, what have I done? And certainly things will be prompted in conversation, but I think the more folks can come prepared, the more ready the information will be for the conversation as
Right.
well.
We'll have
Yep.
to, you know, foster an environment where not everyone has to speak to every point
Right.
before we can move on.
Right.
We'll have to all be comfortable with.
Yep.
I agree with Aaron. Go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And on that, I agree with Aaron. Let's go.
All right,
So,
you can do that. The third item under the town manager was just you're being copied on the Act 250. Seem to be a lot of those lately. And that's all I have. I don't have any other surprise-ish things to report under town manager. So it brings us to schedule.
okay, so we have regular meetings on Monday, January 3rd, and Wednesday, January 19th. And then we have a budget work session on Monday, January 10th at 5:30. Our holiday office closures are as follows. This Thursday, the 23rd, we are closing at noon, and we are closed Christmas Eve, Friday. And then Thursday, December 30th, we're closing at noon, and we'll be closed that Friday for New Year's Eve. Any questions about schedule? Out of interest of being able to sign everything and be out of here by like 8:05, 8:10, I'm gonna forego my report. Does anybody have any other business?
I do have one quick thing. So I don't know if you guys remember, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, we had signed a letter asking the Vermont Council on Rural Development for a community visit. So they did reach out to me to see if we were ready for them and wanted them to come. So, and just to review, if you weren't here, and I'll keep it brief, pretty much it's a free program. They come to your community, they facilitate community conversations. They come back, present what they heard. There's voting by the community on what the top 3 most important issues are to them. And then they form committees right there and then. People who from anywhere in the community can get involved. And then they bring in all these resources, experts from the state, federal experts to help you move your project forward. And they also help you with grant writing and finding money to do it. So it's, we put in a letter with the city to do it jointly. And they were wondering if they could come and just do like a overview for everybody. So, and the whole select board doesn't have to go, just, you know, if you're interested in hearing more about it. And they wanted to do it over Zoom on January 26th.
Yes.
So, and we can delay if that seems too early. It's not committing anything, it's just, this is how it works. And I apologize, I didn't brief you guys beforehand on this.
And that would be an evening meeting, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess my
What, Vermont Center for Rural Studies?
It's
Rural
the
Development.
Rural Development.
Okay.
And you
Vermont
said that was-
Council on Rural Development.
And you said it was free, correct?
Yes.
Free
yes.
and like we don't have to pay anything. Obviously there'll be time commitments, but yeah.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. And I mean, other communities have done it. If you followed the Swanton Enhancement Project,
Oh, yeah.
they have a really active group of community volunteers that have done a lot in Swanton. And Montgomery did it. I forget what came out of it, but a lot of towns have done it, and it really helps them move projects along.
So is this to present to just the town, or is the town and the city?
Town and the city.
Okay.
I guess that might be my sticking point. is operationally we're a little bit more independent. I mean, I don't know. Vision-wise, we seem to have grown more independent since we made that application together. I don't know. I think we still have one community, even though our municipalities are still stubborn and working. But
I'm wondering, since it sounds like the groups that form are of the community by the community, so I'm wondering, they can put ideas forth to the town and the city based on what they're seeing across the community. So, even if the city and town are in different spots municipality-wise, like if it is a united community, that might be able to help us see some commonalities where we can work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if there's a group who's really interested, say like recreational trails comes out of it, then you have people engaged, and maybe some of what they're planning is going to involve parts of the town and some of the city, but they're a group working on it, moving it forward. And the select board doesn't even really have to, you don't have to join a committee if you don't want to, if it's not something you want to be involved in. But I think it would be, I'm for doing it with the city, because I think you can get a lot more done when you're working together on some projects, especially.
We're not asking for 2 sets of volunteers to be,
So we would need the city council to also say that they would want to do this with us, right?
Well, they wrote a letter as well when we did.
But they could reconfirm that they're still on for it. I know they have a lot of projects brewing with their ARPA money. I don't know if they have any bandwidth issues right now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they say.
I just have one. You might have to have a select board meeting that week to talk about budget and or questions for town meetings. So that's going to be our priority. If you're willing to also schedule a second meeting, so that would be your possibly 4th, maybe 5th meeting that month, then that works. But we just got to make sure we can meet sometime that week. Unless you can all agree on the 19th on the budget.
Could
and
it
our questions
potentially
are
be
done.
pushed to April? Because I'm just concerned if Omicron takes off and is as infectious as we're being warned.
They were talking about doing it by Zoom.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of people.
They've been doing it virtually for communities. I mean, I don't want to delay too long, just because we've finally made it to the top of the list.
And we waited almost 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
2 years probably.
2?
Yeah.
It seems like it was
18
longer.
months anyway.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say no, not now, I mean, they're going to start working with other towns.
Okay.
And I mean, I can, if no one wants to go, I can go and report back what they say, or you're not obligated.
Yes, let me know when it is, if I can go. I'd love to at least hear what it's all about.
Yeah.
I think
it's more of a
it
community
sounds like
mission.
strategic planning, so I think the select board should be clear about whether they support it, and are you going on behalf of the select board or Jessica Frost? I mean, I think as a group, you need to figure that out, because it's strategic planning is only as good as those that have buy-in, so.
Yeah, I get nervous that we might have a group of people that shows up that says, I want to work, say, specifically on sidewalks, or let's just go with sidewalks. And then you have a subcommittee that meets and proposes, 3 projects, and then they come to us after meeting it's kind of like the Route 7 North project. They meet for a few years, they come back with an idea that's been scoped out, and they have a cost in mind, and it's almost a dead on arrival subject.
Well,
so I just don't know the inner workings of how much the town should be involved to make sure that nobody wastes their time.
well, and this opportunity will be a good chance to ask questions too. I know they just did one with 4 towns. I can't remember the towns, but all 4 of them worked on it together, so they've been through this model before, and then they could be able to share with us what the committee outcomes were from that.
Got it. So, we feel good about okaying that meeting for January?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
See what happens. My wife is going to be very upset with me by the time February 28th rolls around. Okay. So, does anybody else have any other business? And there's still no need for an executive session?
Correct.
Okay, so, looks like we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Well, second.
So that was Aaron and Jonathan seconding that, and it's 8:02.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Perfect.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
You too,
Christmas.
Anna.
You too, Anna.
Have a good
Merry
one.
Christmas.
Bye.